So, I think a lot of people have the same reaction when they first hear about what this movie is about. And at first it's like, what? And then a little giggle and then curiosity. And I wonder what your initial reaction was when you first heard about this project.
Well, I was curious, and I think that's a good sign, to hear about a movie and think, oh, I wonder what that movie's about, or how that works. And I think it's unusual to be curious about the premise of a movie these days. I think a lot of movies sort of follow the same premise, especially romantic comedies like this one is. So I was curious, and then I read the script, and I loved it, and I really liked Charlotte, who I think is kind of like an angel or something. I mean, I think because of how unusual, because the movie just starts out telling you that a lot of what's happening in it is ridiculous from our contemporary point of view. I mean, it starts out with, blood and guts everywhere in a hospital, and this doctor saying he absolutely doesn't believe in germs, and then the whole idea of somebody using a vibrator on a woman to cure hysteria. I mean, to us now, that's outrageous. So I didn't think Charlotte had to be historically sort of accurate in any way. I thought she could just be this wild, bright life force in the movie, and I thought it would be fun to play that.
Yeah, I really liked her a lot too. It
was
really
I think
nice to see a woman
winning.
Playing a character like that.
Yeah, she's a winning person. You are rooting for her, I think.
And I would suspect that you could relate to her on a personal level also, because I mean, you are an activist. You are a really strong person yourself. I mean, could you relate to her? Is there a lot of her in you, do you think?
Yeah, I guess I wish that I were. I mean, she's so alive. She doesn't care about the consequences to her actions when she's doing something she believes in at all. I do have some of that, but she's like an imaginary, but she's not really a human you're going to walk into on the street. I think she's kind of magical or something. And so it was really fun to be her. And yeah, it did kind of, there was an ease about it. I liked being her. And, often, even things I've been really proud of that I've worked on, they've been hard. It's been hard to figure out a way in. With her, I just was kind of like, oh yeah. I kind of had a way to do it from the beginning, in a way.
Nice. Yeah. Terrific British accent, too.
Oh, thanks.
And you're surrounded by mostly British actors. I wonder, was that a little intimidating for you?
Well, I do this thing when I do a British accent, which I did the same thing in Nanny McPhee, where I just talk British all the time when I'm working. I'll get in the car in the morning and I'll just go, hey, right, okay, just be English. And it's kind of, I think it's a little embarrassing to do that, It's embarrassing to talk in an English accent in front of English people. So if you just get the embarrassing part out of the way and just yeah, I'm talking in a fake accent, then you don't feel embarrassed when you're working. And people just get used to it. And people will tell you, everybody will tell you then, not just the dialect coach. Everyone will say, oh, no, we don't say it like that. Or actually, we say this. And that's so helpful and great. And then also you get the vibe of an English person because you're talking with English people all the time in their accent. But it's also kind of that thing of I think Americans, I don't know if it's the same with Canadians, kind of wish they talked that way. I sort of do. So it's I get to just do it.
They also sound brilliant, don't they, with the British accent?
Yeah.
It sounds really smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to ask you also what it feels like to be surrounded by these period piece sets and to be dressed in these, period clothes and everybody around you. I mean, what does it feel like to be in the middle of all that? That's something not everybody gets, very rarely anybody would get a chance to experience.
Well, I've gotten really good with a corset now because this was the second, and I've now done 3 projects. 2 of them were plays that took place at the same time. So at first, when I first put on a corset, I felt really claustrophobic and a little dizzy, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to work in it. But I wore a corset through this whole movie, and Charlotte's so physical. I got really used to it. I learned how to manage it. I learned how to pee in a corset. I learned, all the sort of tricks of it. I really like working in that particular time. I think it's a really attractive look for women. Just those long skirts and the hair all piled up. And, I've done it a lot now. This particular time, this like 20-year period. And it does make a huge difference in terms of how you move and how you talk and how you present yourself. But my thing also about period pieces in general is I don't think people always sat like this just because it was 100 years ago. I think that's a fantasy. I think that humans were always humans and they moved like humans, and there were some shifts and differences based on what you were wearing and what the social mores were at the time. But the performances I admire most of in period movies are ones where people still have life in their bodies and they still move in a way that's recognizable to us.
Mm-hmm. Talk about a great cast in this, and the people that you worked pretty closely with on this, which is Hugh Dancy and Rupert Everett, who was hilarious, mm-hmm. and Jonathan Pryce. Can you talk a little bit about working with all of these men?
Yeah, I loved working with all of them. I mean, mostly I worked with Hugh. He really was, I came in and I shot the movie and I just did all my stuff together. So it was just Hugh, all the time. And it's hard, this movie, this script. It's not easy. It's the kind of script where the rhythm of what you're saying can't be changed in a way. It's difficult to explain, but I would have these long speeches to say, and so would Hugh. And if any word in them was wrong, you almost had to begin again, because it isn't a movie where you can ponder and say, you had to, there was almost like it was almost sung. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's true even sometimes for contemporary romantic comedies, that there's like a rhythm. And so Hugh totally just had that rhythm with me, and we just, and it had to be fast, and it had to be felt, and, I had a great time working with him.
Super. Well, we got to wrap, but just quickly, are you going to work with your husband soon?
I've done 2 plays with my husband, and honestly, I have never worked with anyone I've enjoyed more, and I would like to work with him all the time on everything. I really would. He's going to direct a movie next, and, just even being his wife, I'm excited to think about it with him and help him with it in the way that, a partner does. But I'd love to act with him. I'd love to act with him in everything all the time.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. Well, I hope we get to see you again working with him in the near future. Have a terrific time tonight at the premiere.
Thank you.
Much success with it.
Okay.